So last night, Impact Wrestling started off their UK tour at the SSE Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland. Unfortunately, I was not able to make that show. I know a few friends who did, and in this video, I'm going to go through uh, what actually happened during that Double Impact Wrestling tapings event. So, if you don't want to know what is happening in the upcoming at the Impact Wrestling TV programs, don't watch it any further. But I will run through what happened on both uh, episodes of Impact Wrestling, taped, as I said, at the SSE Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland. Now, as I said, I wasn't actually, unfortunately, able to be there. However, I did have a few friends there, and they kept me updated with information, news on some of the bits that happened. I've also taken the results from a website who gathered it from their readers or viewers, however the terminology is there. So I do have the full results, which should be accurate. And I have to say there was a few great surprises, including two former WWE champions, one of whom is most certainly the biggest wrestling star in Scotland at the moment. Uh, ICW champion Drew Galloway. Now I'll get to him right at the end because he didn't actually appear until the second episode taping. So I'll get to him, and I'll get to what TNA has officially said right at the end. So like I said, I wasn't there myself. I had a few friends who, because I was watching something and doing stuff for another video, I was being kept up to date a little bit, and it seemed a very, very good show. In fact, just before I go into what actually happened on the show itself, my friend Becca, who was there with her boyfriend Damon, who I also know from the local wrestling shows, she said on her Facebook page that she saw none other than former TNA Tag Team Champions, the Motor City Machine Guns, outside the Hydro. Now, I looked at the results of the TNA show. They didn't seem to be appearing. They didn't seem to have appeared on the show. I don't know whether they were a part of TNA, what role they were playing there, whether they were there officially or just decided to turn up. I don't know, but I'll certainly keep an eye out, see whether there's any mention of the possibility of the Motor City Machine Guns returning to TNA. Obviously, TNA continues its UK tour tonight in Manchester. But anyway, after all that going on a bit, I want to get obviously to what actually happened during the show, the first Impact Wrestling taping. I'll go through them quickly as I can so we don't make this video too long. The first match was Kaylee Ray and Noam Dar, two of the British Boot Camp finalists, defeating Gail Kim and Rampage Brown. Rampage Brown is another British Boot Camp finalist, a really big, powerful guy. He's a really great wrestler. I saw him in October for the first time live. That was a mixed tag team match that was taped for Explosion. Noam pinned Brown, and Gail Kim barely saw any action in the ring. Certainly keep an eye out for obviously these programs when they are aired. I know when they're aired, so I'll get to that at the end of the running down what happened on these tapings anyway. Then they got to actual Impact Wrestling program. Kurt Angle opens the show in the ring. Austin Aries and Gunner are joining with Angle to eliminate the BDC. Bobby Lashley comes out, shakes hands with Angle. Angle says it's time for him to get a title shot again. The BDC come out wearing match attire but get chased off after some promos. Bobby Roode defeats Austin Aries by submission. Apparently Rude grabbed the microphone after the match, but Eric Young laid him out and left him lying in the ring after a pile driver. Then it was time for one of the segments that I know. Well, one of the bits of the show that I know a lot of Scottish wrestling fans headed to the Hydro to actually see, and that was between Al Snow and Scottish wrestling star Grado. Now, for those international fans, I know that I don't think this particular section or sections of Impact Wrestling over the next few weeks will really grab their attention and interest massively. For anybody that doesn't know who Grado is, that's Grado. Think of kind of like a Scottish Dusty Rhodes type, a little bit smaller, chubby wrestler. He does know how to properly wrestle. He does it more on the entertaining side. He is a very good wrestler. He is, very accomplished as well in the ring, and certainly over the last couple of years, through Insane Championship Wrestling and a couple other promotions that he works for, he's become a very big star here in the Scottish and quite often UK wrestling scene. Apparently, Al Snow came out to quite a lot of boos. Grado came out to a big cheer from the audience. ICW is based mostly in Glasgow, and Grado's quite local, the top end of Stevenson, which is only really a few miles outside Glasgow. Al Snow called Grado out and challenged him to a match next week. Obviously, just like I was there last year. Obviously, it was one taping, and then they did the very next one. So obviously, really challenging to a match later on in the night, but supposedly at the next week's edition of Impact Wrestling. Bram squashed Crazy Steve in a match after that. He called out Magnus, but Magnus never showed up. Tyrus, who is obviously formerly Brodus Clay, and Ethan Carter III defeated Mark Andrews, who was the winner of British Boot Camp and is now signed to an Impact Wrestling contract. Jeremy Borash and Rockstar Spud in a handicap match. Borash actually apparently did a dive outside the ring. Now, I saw a little bit of fan footage of the show, not very much, just a few seconds here and there. I did see somebody, definitely I don't think it was Jeremy Borash. It may even possibly been something like Austin Aries, it looked like, but somebody certainly did a suicide dive outside the ring, and they crash into the crowd barrier. Their opponent is because it was a little bit far away. You could tell it was zoomed in, but it was still quite fuzzy. Their opponent just moves out the way, and they'll go crashing quite head first into the crowd barrier. And it looked, obviously, hopefully, it was not too painful, but it did look like quite an impact on the actual crowd barrier. EC3 pinned Spud to win and tried to shave his head, but then the lights went off and none other than Mr. Anderson returned. Apparently he got a very strong reaction, positive reaction from the fans. He then took out Tyrus and EC3. Now, before I move actually on, I saw a bit on, I think it's TNA's YouTube channel. It's a little bit of a shot at WWE's creative. It has EC3 and Tyrus walking along backstage. I'm not sure whether this is taped in Glasgow or taped before they came over, but certainly I can't remember what the name of the thing is. I think it's on. But go to Andre Corbeil, who does stuff with OneWrestling.com. Go to his Twitter page at Andre Corbeil, and you can see it on his timeline. It's quite funny. They're walking along. Tyrus looks up and sees a disco ball, one of those glittery disco balls, and it goes off from there. And then actually near the end, Ethan Carter third gets a phone call, and he said, "Oh, I've got to take it. It's my mother or my mum, whatever." So it did take a little bit of Mickey out of course, Tyrus's former gimmick as the Brodus Clay in WWE. To the next match on the first taping, Madison Rayne came out. She talked about being Knockouts champion in the past, but then that lot just led to, I believe, Awesome Kong coming out and winning what several people I've seen called just a squash match. Obviously meaning a very quick win for Awesome Kong. Then we were almost at the end of the first taping. Matt Hardy came out and said the Revolution has injured Jeff Hardy. Now that was obviously, as we have all seen, the fall from the steel cage door. Now we've heard that that was apparently planned. It still obviously looked very, very dangerous. Jeff Hardy was straddling the cage door, and then just fell right off it, and he ended up actually landing on the steel steps. So he apparently was genuinely hurt by that. Now, obviously, the reason for Jeff Hardy, I think, to be honest, I know it's wearing a little bit thin because it's been the last several years now that they've had the Jeff Hardy being injured storyline at about the end of December. Obviously, the reason is because of his past legal troubles. He can't actually enter the UK, at least right now. I'm not sure whether he's permanently banned from entering the UK, but he certainly cannot enter the United Kingdom right now. I think it may be permanent because, like I said, it's been the past couple of years. So he's not able to actually be a part of the UK tour, so they have to write him off storyline wise, so he doesn't appear. So they kind of explained it. James Storm and crew came out and said that he did something that the Undertaker couldn't do. That was put Jeff Hardy out of action. Matt Hardy and James Storm brawl. Hardy gets beat down by the Revolution, and the Wolves, Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, end up running out to make the save. And apparently they got a very good reaction. They are obviously very well liked by UK fans over here, so I wasn't really surprised to hear several people actually comment on the Wolves pop that they get, so I'm looking forward to seeing obviously this taping being shown very soon. Then the last match to end the first taping, MVP and Samoa Joe defeated Kurt Angle and Lashley in what is being described on this website as a good match. Angle accidentally hit Lashley, leading to MVP pinning Lashley, and apparently Angle and Lashley had a stare down to end the first taping. Now, I have to say, my experience last year, there was no definite, right, well, obviously there was, you could tell that was the end of the first taping, but there was no actual big, huge announcement that that was the end of the first taping. No, it was kind of, the section ended, and then we had the announcement by Christy Hemme that the second taping will begin in I think it was about 10 minutes or so. And that is a bit annoying because last year, as the second Impact Wrestling show was being taped, the first one was being aired here in the UK on Challenge TV. I don't believe that is due to to TNA doing several tapings over the last few weeks. That will not be happening now, and the first Impact Wrestling that was taped last night, I believe, will be shown on Destination America on the 13th of February. That's the 13th of February. It will be shown, and That's obviously Friday, and then I believe, if I believe this is absolutely correct, we in the UK will be able to see it 2 days later on the Sunday. I believe that is. I believe we are right up to date on Impact Wrestling um, episode. So that was the first episode of Impact Wrestling tape last night. Move very quickly on to the second Impact Wrestling episode. Like I said, I really wish that this is the second episode. Before I run it down quickly, the second episode was really made me wish that I could have been there. Just no money right now and a few other things that I just could not be there, unfortunately, this year. I really enjoyed myself last year, and you can go back and you watch a little bit of my fan footage taken from there. I've also got a photo set up from there. I'm sure people who were in attendance will actually be putting up any photos they took, and as I said earlier, I have seen a little bit of fan footage on Facebook, on social media, Twitter, and that from people who were in attendance last night. So the second episode kicked off with Eric Young defeating Tommy Dreamer in a bloody hardcore match. I would have loved to have seen that match. I saw Eric Young defeat, I think, well, I can't, my mind's escaping, but I definitely saw Eric Young take on Abyss in a Monsters Ball match last year. I thought that was quite a decent match. Then Ethan Carter the third came out with Tyrus, but was again interrupted by Mr. Anderson. Rockstar Spud attacked Ethan from behind and also took out Tyrus. Anderson went to shave Ethan's hair, but Tyrus made the save. Eventually, Anderson and Spud held Tyrus down and shaved his head. Next up, Awesome Kong defeated Angelina Love, and apparently Gail Kim came out to stare at Kong after the match. Next up, Kurt Angle came out and cut a promo hyping the Battle Royal that would be happening very shortly. Mickie James, the first former WWE champion of two that made an appearance last night, turned up. She is seemingly back in TNA, in Impact Wrestling. She cut a promo pretty much basically saying that. I've seen a few of the comments that she made, but seemingly she is back into Impact Wrestling. Obviously, she took a lot of time off recently to have a baby. Of course, she is going out with Magnus, who seemingly at least wasn't on this show. I'm not entirely sure whether he is actually on the tour, but certainly Mickie James is there. She's back on Impact Wrestling. I don't doubt that she will be looking to go after the Knockouts Championship from Taryn Terrell very shortly. I believe Taryn's still the champion, at least as far as I know. She is still Impact Wrestling champion. I'm not sure entirely what's happening in the next episode or two of Impact. Obviously, those events will be aired before the events of this Impact Wrestling taping. Then it was the number one contender to the World Heavyweight Championship 20-man Battle Royal. It was MVP who took the victory. The final four were Angle and members of the BDC, with MVP eliminating Angle to take the victory. So obviously MVP very much, he said it on a couple of podcasts. He actually, I believe it was the RWR podcast with Alice Radley that you know, and they didn't really talk much about wrestling, but certainly he was very much looking to take a good spot in Impact Wrestling this in 2015. I think he's obviously he has just been there. I can't work out, but he has been in Impact Wrestling really now just a year, because he actually made his debut in Impact Wrestling 1 year ago at the last SSE Hydro Impact Wrestling tapings, the ones I was at last year. Of course, he was the supposed secret investor that was revealed during the end of the end of the first taping. He actually was revealed because I think Dick Scatter demanded to know who it was, and then I think he made a couple appearances during the second taping. Well, the second part of the taping, the second episode. So he's just really been in TNA a year, and he's obviously had a huge impact in the recent couple of months with this faction storyline regarding the World Heavyweight Championship. Then the final match on the second Impact Wrestling taping. Now this, as I said earlier, was certainly one of the reasons why many Scottish wrestling fans made their way to the Hydro, and I'm not sure yet the attendance. I couldn't find a proper number for the attendance at the Hydro, and I'm sure we'll probably get to hear over the next few hours what the number attending it was. But it seemed like there was certainly, like I said, from some of the fan footage I saw, it was really quite busy. A lot of crowd there, so it wasn't like there was half a dozen, very few people there. It did seem that there was at least a half decent crowd at the Hydro, which again, that is just basically celebrated its first year as a venue, because Impact Wrestling's taping last year. I hate to keep bringing that up, but that was actually the very first professional wrestling event to be held there. It was one of the first events to be held at the Hydro. So the main event of the second Impact Wrestling episode was Al Snow versus Grado. Now, I don't know if people saw this, but on Al Snow's Twitter page, I think it's the real Al Snow, I think, he put up a picture of himself, and I have to say he looks in better shape than he has been in years, and I genuinely mean in years, even possibly better shape than he was in the late 1990s when he was in WWE and taking on the likes of Hardcore Holly and teaming up with Mick Foley and all that time. He looked in tremendous shape. Now, obviously, the crowd again were behind Grado. Grado got a massive pop. I saw a lot, but one of the fan footage I saw was Grado making his entrance. Now, Grado's typical entrance theme is a version of Madonna's Like a Prayer. Not normally Madonna's version that he uses. Apparently, he has said before he doesn't really like. I think it was on Rock Sport Radio, on Bell to Bell. I think it was certainly one of the interviews and one of the appearances on. I'm sure it was on that station. He said he doesn't really particularly like. I don't know what reason it is, but he doesn't particularly like the Madonna version. He normally uses a version, I believe they're called the Hit Nation. That's the version he normally uses. I wasn't actually sure whether they would allow him to use that music, because obviously of copyright. I know, Impact Wrestling, can, pay for rights to use such a song, but it seemingly they did at least use a version of Like a Prayer. In the fan footage, it's a bit difficult to hear it sound properly, to hear really the version, whether it is his normal version. But certainly came out to his normal song Like a Prayer. And talking about his entrance because it is such a big part of. It was not a huge part of his act or the Grado character, but it's certainly something that gets a great reaction to him and for him really, and it really gets him going. Some of the places he's gone around the UK, and it's like, well, how he really gets nervous. He said it on the Insane Fight Club. He said again a couple of interviews. Um, I think it's From the Heart podcast. I think he was on the one with the podcast by Scottish wrestler Lionheart. It really does get him in the mood and gets the fans behind him, and it really gets he's got a great act. Again, we don't know what the situation with some of the Impact Wrestling uh, British boot camp stars are, but it was Al Snow and Grado for the main event. Apparently Grado got the win. I'm really looking forward to seeing this match. I know Grado, I don't think is, like I said, it's very difficult. As I said earlier, I'm not entirely sure the reaction that this match will get. I'm not seeing currently any footage of the match. I'll have a look on social media, look on YouTube later on, um, after I get back from where I'm going to see whether I can see any of the match. But Grado got the win, and apparently him and Al Snow shoot hands after match. I meant to actually say before this match was actually originally scheduled for October for a company called Discovery Wrestling, who are actually holding their next show on, I think it's the 14th of March at Craig's Community Centre in Edinburgh. They were originally supposed to be the main event of Discovery Wrestling's first show this past October at the Meadowbank Sports Centre. Unfortunately, other commitments from Al Snow and Grado, unfortunately, the match had to be cancelled. But we finally got it here. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I know a lot of Scottish fans are interested. Obviously, Al Snow and Grado have both hyped it up, and both of us getting character. And the British boot camp obviously was a bit of a work. It was a bit set up because I honestly don't believe that Grado would be late to something like that, and try and really throw away his chance of being signed by a massive company. But who has been signed by a massive company is Drew Galloway, as I mentioned earlier. Formerly Drew McIntyre, former WWE Intercontinental Tag Team and reigning Insane Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Champion, Drew Galloway made his TNA debut to a huge pop. Apparently the BDC came out after Al Snow vs Grado and attacked Grado. This prompted Drew Galloway to appear and save his ICW colleague Grado. And I have to say this is a huge chance for Drew Galloway. Now, obviously, Drew Galloway made his shock return to Scottish wrestling last year, beat then reigning champion Jack Jester for the ICW Heavyweight Championship, which he still holds. He is still officially the ICW champion, and I don't see Mark Dallas, who was in attendance at the Hydro, stripping Drew of the title. I know that they were certainly wanting to keep Drew and use him as a big promotional tool over this next year or so, even if he's champion or not, and really use him to generate interest in in ICW from Impact Wrestling and WWE fans who will obviously know the name of, at least if they don't know Drew Galloway, they'll know Drew McIntyre. But it seems that he has signed with Impact Wrestling, because last night, I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, but John Gaburick, John Gaburick, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but he is one of the bosses at Impact Wrestling, and he tweeted this: "What a debut in Glasgow tonight by our newest young star, Drew Galloway. Welcome to at Impact Wrestling." And he said, "See him in Manchester and London." So if you're going tonight to see TNA Impact Wrestling, well, you really should just call it Impact Wrestling in Manchester, or you're going to see them, I think it's the following night, in London, you will actually see Drew Galloway, um, possibly as part of the show. And obviously, I know that fans will again tweet, go on YouTube, uh, use all different kinds of social media to put the results of what happens during those shows out there for the public to read, obviously way before the shows are actually broadcast. Now, I said the first Impact Wrestling taping from Glasgow is going to be shown on the 13th, and then obviously in the UK on Sunday the 15th. The uh, the second show will be shown the following week on the 20th, and in the UK we will get it on the 22nd. Again, that's another Sunday. As every Sunday you can find Impact Wrestling here in the UK on Challenge TV. Check local listings, so sometimes check your listings because sometimes it does change about times due to Wrestle Talk TV and a couple of the programs, but it's normally on around about 9 o'clock, 9 p.m. on Challenge TV. I think it's Sky 145. Check other service providers for the channel listings for Challenge TV, and there's also Challenge certainly on Sky Challenge TV plus one. So if you missed the start of it, so you come in late or whatever, if you forget to set the tape, set to record, you can watch it an hour later on Challenge TV plus one. So certainly a very busy, very interesting couple of editions taped last night for Impact Wrestling. I know that just very quickly, I know Drew Galloway is going to be doing all the dates that he has booked for. Several people have voiced concern on social media to groups like BCW, who he's appearing for. That's British Championship Wrestling on in April. I think it's April 14th. But they've confirmed that he still will be appearing there, and I'm sure obviously any dates that he will be that he's already booked for, he will be appearing. It's just going to be good to see really what this genuine situation is with Drew Galloway and Impact Wrestling. As it seems from John Gaburek that he is signed to Impact Wrestling. What dates that will entail, whether this UK tour is potentially an audition, and exactly how he will be when he steps into the Impact Wrestling ring for his very first match. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Obviously, I'll check social media and check things tomorrow to see what the results of the show, what happened tonight's Impact Wrestling tapings. I believe both Manchester and London are also double tapings of Impact Wrestling, so they're stacking the Impact Wrestling episodes. And I know certainly, even for those who will be there, and those who, like myself, will not be attending any of the Impact Wrestling UK tour dates for this year, I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest in seeing exactly what happens on these television tapings, and obviously a lot of interest in actually watching these programs when they air on the week of the 13th and 20th of February. But what a huge thing that is for Scottish wrestling fans. Drew Galloway has seemingly signed with Impact Wrestling. That's the major news coming out last night of Impact Wrestling's UK tour event at the SSE Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland.